Hello and happy Moon Day. This is Claudia Thompson, tuning you into the true rhythms of life, the lunar rhythms, as we awaken to what it means to be a transcendent galactic human. It's a mouthful, isn't it? I've been seeing some things lately about transhumanism and how that's one of the grand plans. Well, those of us who have chosen to continue to just elevate our humanness in this time of ascension are on a very different, and we're creating a wonderful, wonderful world. And remember that, because the noise is only going to ramp up. And interestingly enough, Mars, this month is a turning point. And it's a lot noisier than February. Mercury's moving really fast, and we're going to be talking about that. And Mars reached Pluto first. We had that happen over the weekend. And now Mars and Venus, well, actually, they're at 1 degree of Aquarius now. So that's very different. That's energizing the new balance that's occurring regarding our friends and our community and our humanitarian pursuits and just our vision for humanity and how we're walking that in our everyday life. So this month, one of the questions I have for you is, what's your big dream? We had that new moon in Pisces, that optimistic, that new moon conjunct Jupiter, which asked us to what we wanted to expand and grow regarding our big dream and to dream bigger than we've ever dreamed before. So I hope that that's helped buoy your spirits up a bit. And also Pisces, of course, remind you to stay in touch with those things that inspire you, your sources of inspiration. And now as we move into Aquarius, that has to do with friends and community. What are the things that inspire you? This month, this cycle, the new moon is in Pisces and the full moon will be in Virgo next week. So this is the health axis of the zodiac. So Pisces is the part of that axis, the health axis, that has to do with mental, emotional, and spiritual health, which this is the environment for vital health, radiance, and well-being, or the opposite. Everything that manifests physically has been giving us messages, calling us spiritually, mentally, and emotionally before it manifests in our physical field. And Virgo rules physical health. So this month reminds you to look at your regimen and how in order, whether you have it in order regarding all of those areas that I just mentioned, to check in with. You've heard me say before that I meditate before I get out of bed, and I do a light meditation as well. So, these are some things, whatever you're doing in your life. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the health as we move through the moon this week. And what's up with that, so that you can harness your universe and really dance to the rhythms of the moon. I'm feeling a little tongue-tied, and so we're going to do what we always do. We're going to begin with a heart drop. So if you'll put your palms up in your lap, feet on the floor, feel the soles of your feet connect with the floor and shoot that energy down into the earth. Each of you has an earth star about 3.5 feet below the earth, wherever you are walking. So there's literal, magnetic support from the earth, not just gravity, but wonderful grounding, supportive sustenance. So now we're going to inhale. And as we do, we're going to bring up all those earth colors. What do you see? Orange, bronze, copper, the mineral kingdoms, the different colors of all the kingdoms coming up through your body, filling every cell. This delicious breath coming from below the soles of your feet, up through your feet. Up, 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 enlivening every cell of your body all the way up to your crown chakra. And at the crown chakra, white light is pouring down through your crown chakra. And it melds, it mixes with the earth colors, and your cells are now becoming more and more radiant as you exhale. And you exhale anything that is preventing you from being right here in this moment with me. So take another delicious breath in. Is your belly moving? You might want to put your hands on your belly and just be sure that your belly is accepting the breath. Welcome the breath. And on this next breath, as you bring the breath up, up, up on the inhalation, on the exhalation, see all that monkey mind mental energy moving down. As your focus moves down behind your facial mask, through your neck and throat, down through your chest, coming to rest in your heart. So do 2 or 3 breaths until you really feel yourself come to rest in your consciousness, in your heart. Make the exhalation a little longer than the inhalation. And now as that light lands in your heart, that awareness lands in your heart, you see that energy expand through all the cells in your body, that heart-centered energy. And then it moves through your skin, filling your auric field. Now take a few breaths in and out of your heart. You can always put your hands on your heart if that will help. And now inhale that beautiful heart light. And on the exhalation, see that light moving out through your home, through your community, to your friends, your family, your loved ones. And now, as you continue to breathe, the heart energy moves out to embrace all the continents, the oceans, and all the creatures, humans, plants, and kingdoms of this beautiful, beautiful earth. And now this energy returns to you, all this wonderful heart, light-filled energy that you set out to embrace the planet. And now that light is collected, that heart light, and on the next exhalation, it moves out into the solar system, out into the universe, embracing the planets. Vulcan, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And now the energy of the planets comes back to you. Make sure you're grounded so that you can handle all this wonderful energy coming back to you. The planetary energies at their highest vibration, guiding to you to use these energies for your highest good and greatest joy. Now just take a couple of breaths and feel the energy of the earth and the oceans and the planets filling you, grounding you as you are present in the present moment as the presence. Take another breath and be sure that you are dropped into your heart. And open your eyes. Come back to be with me. So how was that? Check in if you're out there. Let me know where you're from. And if you're watching the replay, please do that as well. Let me know where you're hailing from. And you can always message me at Moon Powered Astrology. Let me know if you're enjoying the work I'm doing here and the insights I'm sharing. And if there's something that you would like to have me talk about, have me share more with you. So as we are moving through this week, we start today with the moon in earthy Taurus. And the moon is currently at 7 degrees of Taurus. So it just went in last night. I'm sorry, 17 degrees of Taurus. There's a 1 in front of that. So yes, the moon is at 17 degrees of Taurus, and we are in the crescent phase of this current lunar cycle. And the crescent phase is the phase where the seed that you've planted with your intention setting deep in your subconscious, underground, in the area of your unconscious subconscious, now sprouts. And the crescent phase is analogous to the planting cycle, where the seed sprouts and reaches for the light as it comes above ground, this tender shoot. And it's the time in the cycle where you now get your resources together. What do you need to move that big dream forward? And it also has to do with consciousness. And I hope you're all watching your dreams. Lots of messages coming through dreams these days. And so as you move forward through this cycle, also the old habits and patterns that can sabotage your progress come up. That's part of the function of the crescent cycle, of the crescent phase. And it reminds you that sometimes we feel like we're taking a step forward and 2 steps back and 2 steps forward and a step back, really dancing with the moon, right? But these insights are gifts. They're not just there to annoy you. After all, the South Node is traveling through Scorpio, reminding you that there's gold in the shadow, but that you have to be willing to dive deep and go into the shadow of past hurts and eliminate those emotions that are tying up your energy, that are not going to help you move forward into this new way of being that we're being called, this radical new way of being that we're all being called to walk and to practice. So as the moon moves through Taurus, let me get my notes arranged a little better here. As the moon moves through Taurus, it's in a nice angle to 2 planets in Pisces. So this is very restorative. And also, you're reminded that when a door closes, another one opens. And I mentioned last week at the time of the new moon that this was the 7th new moon at 12 degrees. And 12 is the masculine of the 1, the feminine of the 2 coming together to create a 3. So the 12 is endings. There are 12 signs in the zodiac, and the 12th sign, Pisces, is the final one. So it reminds you that something is ending. An old dream is ending. So a new dream can be born. And we've got spring just around the corner, which is the time of birth. And the first quarter of the year where we really build that support system. We take action to really pioneer the support system that's going to, make the fruition that we seek at the solstice begin to come into being. So Taurus rules the 5 senses. It's a great time to give yourself a massage or get a massage, to give hugs and get hugs. It also rules the ears, nose, throat, and jaw and neck. So, you might find if you got some TMJ that you need to tend to that. This is really a TMJ time anyway, isn't it? Yes. Thermomandibular jaw stress. Anyway, I went to my chiropractor a few weeks ago, and he worked with that. He said he'd never seen anyone whose jaw was so tight. Well, my moon, I was born with the moon in Taurus, and so I tend to hold tension there and to grind my teeth sometimes. So remembering to connect with the earth. Taurus is it's ruled by Venus, so it reminds you to connect with the beauty in your life, to see the beauty that you are and that is all around you, to literally get out in nature. And if you're in a place where it's really cold and icy, just step outside and breathe that frequency in. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, the Solfeggio frequency, 528 hertz, which is love, is the frequency that nature vibrates at. Pretty amazing, huh? So, just drink some of that in, and take some time while you're doing your daydreaming awake with the Pisces energy to allow the sun in, or the weather, or whatever it is. Really celebrate that, because when you're not in a physical body, you don't get to experience that. So It's also, Taurus can be very grounding, and it asks us to look at our values as the north node of the moon, which is the soul's collective mandate right now. Um, and north node is what we're being asked, where we're being asked to move forward, the direction we're moving forward toward. The south node is what we're, the past, what we're being asked to leave behind. So the north node in Taurus is about our values. What do we need to be who we are? What do we truly need? I found it interesting that Elon Musk has formed an alliance with a company called Boxable, which produces tiny homes, and he's moved into a tiny home. I don't know where his kids are, but anyway, he has divested himself of some of his big houses and mansions and moved into a tiny home. See what that's about. And I have a variety of. I'm not a proponent necessarily of Elon Musk. I just find it very interesting that he is creating solutions and working at that level. So take a look at you'll find it on the internet at Boxable. You'll find his schematic for his home, and of course it's really a neat design. So if that's something that you're thinking about, as you think about what you truly need to be who you are, and detaching from all the materialism of the world. After all, we had that grand conjunction um, at the end of last year that took us into 200 years of air out of the earth focus that had been the previous 200 years, when it was, if I have enough, I am enough. If I just have more, 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 that will elevate my status and make me feel secure. And this is one of the big mind shifts that we're being asked to create as we move forward into a different age. And something I heard the other day that I thought was interesting, it reminded me that in Vedic astrology, by planetary position, the Earth will not be into the area that by the precession of the equinoxes, that is the Aquarian age, for another 100 years. So we really get the opportunity to, as we feel ourselves moving into this and start to focus on humanity, that the Piscean message of being spirit, having a human experience, and really walking that oneness. It's like the last bit. Can we get this? Can we get what the avatars that have to do with this time showed us? Jesus was one. He would manifest out of his hands, manifest instantly. And to me, he was an avatar of the human potential, what our potential is as far as manifestation, as far as ascension, all of those.
Claudia, we've lost sound.
There we go. Am I back?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We lost sound for a second. Apologies. So what was I saying? Yeah, I was talking about Taurus. And, if it's the other way around. In other words, we are learning that if we are enough and know we are enough, and we are, the force of creation ourselves. So we are enough. We're born definitely enough. Then you have enough. And this knowingness is something that's growing within all of us as we recognize who we truly are. And this is, we're being asked to boogie. It's interesting. I mentioned the transhuman thing. And I was thinking, all of these abilities, telepathy, self-healing, all of these things are available to human beings. And I feel as though this other thing hanging out there, the digitalization of human beings, is simply to make us realize that it's time that we took that quantum leap, that we explored these things. And many of us know, as this COVID epidemic, actually during this month, it comes back to some of the aspects, turned around a bit, but we might see some more games being played around this. But remember, you are a self-healing organism. Your body is a self-healing organism. So as you go through the zodiac in each cycle, as the moon dances with every planet, it reminds you that you can check in with your health and see how it's doing. So as we move through Taurus and Venus, it reminds us to walk, to move. Taurus can be lazy. It can just sit around. So even if you have to be inside, because it's, I know on the East Coast, for instance, it's really still cold and wintry, find what you can do at home to keep that inner ocean, the overarching message of Pisces cycle, to keep that inner ocean flowing so that you can step into the flow in your life and have what you need always, and recognize that you have what you need, and practice gratitude. That's, after all, that is the fertile soil in which all your intentions thrive. So as we move to tomorrow, we're going to have a shift in energy, and that will occur. What time is that? That's going to occur at 10:40 a.m. So fairly early in the day. The moon shifts into Gemini, and it shifts from this Venusian field to Mercury ruled sign. So it goes from the area of the head, etc., but also the stomach and the body, the grounded area of ourselves, up to the head, to the thinkety think. It's a morning when you might feel really passionate about your goals, and so you want to really look at getting what you need together so that you can walk your dream now. The Aborigines say that you dream the dream awake. And so you might roll that over and see what that means to you. How are you going to make your dream real this year? Pisces is not linear. And as we move through the week, you're going to see how if things become even less linear. And so, welcoming spirit in, but also grounding, looking at actions and calendaring them that you are willing to take, and how you can walk that dream, being connected to spirit and being that point of view, that the ears, eyes, etc. of spirit in the world, manifesting, taking solid action on your dream so you can live it every day and remain in joy, the clearest evidence of the presence of spirit. So you might find that opportunities unfold tomorrow, as the moon moves into Gemini. So that's really nice, right? Yeah. It's going to ultimately, as it moves through Gemini, it's going to make a square, as it's called, to Jupiter. And Jupiter is expansive and growth oriented. So that will have you turning some corners. And sometimes what's around that corner are new opportunities. It reminds you to breathe. The moon in Gemini reminds you to breathe. To live fully, you have to breathe fully. So, the heart drop, taking the time to enjoy the breath. It's known that we do not breathe. God, or source, the creative field, breathes us. So every breath is something that can be taken with gratitude, because source considers you interesting enough, so to speak, or on purpose enough to continue to sustain your life. So remember, 33 conscious breaths a day will change your life. And if you find that you get to 9 or 10 and you're ending up losing track, well, you get to go back to the beginning, right? 33 conscious breaths. And, put your hand on your tummy. Gemini rules the inhalation. Its opposite sign of Sagittarius rules the exhalation. And sometimes Gemini can be up here, especially if you find that you have a lot of Gemini energy in your chart. You may find that you are either a mouth breather, as they call it, or that you are in your chest, that you're breathing, quickly in your chest. And when you are breathing like that, it makes it very challenging to listen. Gemini is a sign of learning, and we learn when we listen, right? So as I'm looking at you right now, if you can listen, looking at someone as opposed to being over here, you see how it's a little more challenging for you to stay on track with me, or for me to stay on track with you. This is one of the big keys to good listening, because when you are face to face with someone and you're breathing, so you're really taking in what someone's saying, then you can respond in kind. You can respond with what's really called for. You know, most humans in our culture tend to be thinking of what they want to say next, as opposed to
We were temporarily,
hello there. We
we're
dropped off
back.
again. I apologize to all of you who are watching. And please check in if you are watching. Let me know. Say hello. We're having some wind up here in the high desert. And my Wi-Fi service I find far less than desirable. So I'm going to send good vibes to them and hope that there's nothing that will interrupt us again. But it is windy up here. We've been having some weather. There's a new coating of snow on the mountains. And so we've gotten some moisture. So that's the good part of it. But these technical difficulties are the other side of it. And that brings me to Wednesday. And Wednesday, Mercury is going to move into Pisces out of, I just blanked completely blanked out there, out of Aquarius into Pisces. Very different feeling energy. Aquarius is an air sign. And so it tends to work well. Mercury works well there. But when it moves into Pisces, you're in the land of the nonlinear. Pisces deals with things that are mysterious. And so communication, speaking in tongues, if you've ever heard of what that is, falls under the aegis of Pisces. So this is the type of thing that can occur. As I mentioned, nonlinear. It also, being in Pisces, may bring up some deceitful things that have been happening. So, all the layers are being peeled away of what's been happening so that we can reprogram our world for a happier, healthier way of living. But while it's in Pisces, and it's going to be there until the end of the month, it's moving really quickly. So while it's in Pisces, intuition is high. Communication with the higher realms, the dimensions beyond the veil, multidimensional communication. And I've mentioned that we are definitely being urged to be open to our galactic connections. So these are the kind of things that can be on the high side of Pisces. But the other side is that idea that the mystery of life is not one that can be solved or known, right, in its true sense. Christopher Enstrom was talking about this yesterday, and he was talking about Mercury in Virgo, where it rules Virgo and it's exalted in Virgo. When it's there, it can have to do with the solving of crime mysteries, like Agatha Christie. And Agatha Christie wrote a lot of wonderful mysteries, but they were detailed and they were solvable. The opposite of Pisces. In Pisces, it's about the great mysteries, the mysteries that we explore lifelong and that never have a concrete answer, but yet we're willing to move into them. So imagination, all of these non-linear ways of dealing with consciousness fall under the aegis of Pisces. So be aware of that, and it may even produce technological difficulties. It's square Gemini, which is technology, and Sagittarius, which is technology. So you may find that you're having to turn corners such as I just did. And you saw how for a moment I got thrown off track. Well, that's what Mercury and Pisces can do. It can throw you off this, linear, real world, seemingly track that we are asked to run on and take us into a place of flow. So remember to go with the flow while Mercury is in Pisces particularly. Of course, that's good to know no matter when it is, right? And I just want to move to my notes on this. If you want to know more about Mercury and Pisces, I said you might listen to what Christopher Renstrom has to say about it, because he is a storyteller. And so he talks about, he compares it to the art movements that came out of World War One, Dadaism, surrealism, where reality, painting was very, very surreal. He talked about Marcel Duchamp's Nude Descending a Staircase, which was a collection of images that gave you the feeling of movement, of flow. So, Pisces is very creative. It's very emotionally sensitive. And you might find that you're feeling more what people mean than what they're saying. And that can be the high or the low side of Pisces, depending on what's going on. But it's really important to keep your field clear and to, be as present as possible when you're speaking with people, and just be aware that, empathy is high, intuition is high, spiritual connection can be really ramped up during this time, but also this idea of linearity of, of one and one makes two may or may not be true. Listen to your feelings, because your feelings will oftentimes give you the true story. And as I mentioned, we're going to see a lot of things around deceit and betrayal come up, information wise. And I would say in the news feed, but I hope that you're really not watching the news feed so much, because your job as a light worker is to be present and to program yourself with the highest vibration that you can. And so the things that are going on in your present atmosphere and your response, so that you can truly be responsible, able to respond to your current environment, is really, really important. And there's plenty going on. And of course, with Mercury and Pisces, there's a lot of input that you may feel. So I mentioned March is a noisier month. I mentioned that at the very beginning. So you don't want to overload yourself with more noise, static, distraction, because that's going to continue. That's been one of the ways that the unfolding of human beingness has seemingly been controlled for a long, long time. So all of these things are going to be trotted out so that we can see them. So it's like, oh, I get it. I get it, So so that's happening. They'll be there till the 28th of the month, Mercury and Pisces. So that's really the big news for this week as far as planetary movements go. And then when we come to Thursday, we enter the first quarter phase of the moon at 2:42 a.m. So when you wake up on Thursday, you'll be in the first quarter. The first quarter is the half moon. The light is growing. We're in the waxing part of the cycle. Active, growing, building energy. Time to move forward on those new moon intentions if you haven't already. So, it's if you meant to dance around your house, if that was one of your health intentions and you haven't been doing it, get on with it. The first quarter phase in the planting cycle is a cycle where the stem and leaves of the plant take form. The delivery system for the nourishment of what the manifestation that's desired begins to come into play. So what is needed to nourish those intentions? And also, how can you flow more with life? Are you drinking enough water? Are you moving? Are you noticing your dreams? This is really such a potent time from now, actually through the first part of May, particularly. We've got a conjunction coming up, something happening with Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, and we're building toward that. We're already feeling it. So paying attention to your dreams. I know some people have told me they've had really weird dreams. So that's part of this too, because we go beyond the veil. Again, nonlinear. Dreams don't make sense according to the way that we live in our waking life most of the time. So, The moon actually is void of course. You've got quite a void of course on Thursday, from about this Mercury in Pisces may really play with technology. It certainly seems to be playing with me already. My chart is ruled by Mercury. So, I always have to watch where Mercury goes. So I mentioned that there's going to be a void of course moon all day long on Thursday. It really begins at about 8:43 in the morning. And we have the moon move into Cancer at 11:40 at 11:24 p.m. that night. So you can see that's a long void of course on Thursday as we shift from the head, the mental thinkity thing, to the gut in Cancer. And Cancer reminds us that it's time for our breast or pectoral self-check. Every time the moon moves into Cancer every month, it gives you the opportunity to check with those areas of your body and make sure that they are healthy. And Google that. If you don't know how to do that for yourself, to check, to be sure that everything is in perfect, healthy order, you can Google that, because this is the time of the month on Thursday when you want to do that. And we move from the input, the need for positive input, information, brilliant ideas in Gemini, variety being the spice of life, into Cancer, where emotional security becomes the number one concern. Also, Cancer is very creative. It has to do with the inner child. And so it really reminds us to play, that creativity occurs when we play, and to nurture our inner child, to be kind to ourselves and others, to be compassionate, to have compassion. I hear a lot of adversarial things about, they're not on the path, or, getting angry at people who don't have the same opinions, etc. And it's not necessarily easy, because we're all looking for tribe now, for like-minded tribe. But you can just lovingly let go. You don't have to get into it. You can listen. Why do they have the point of view that they have? And just let them go with love. And you definitely, you absolutely have the right with Mars and Venus now in Aquarius. You may find that there are some friends that you are detaching from, that began with Mars and Venus coming up to conjunct Pluto, but now it moves into the realm of friends, and looking at the communities that you want to put energy into. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday who's been involved with a community of women off and on for 20 years. And they were on a path, a particular path they were studying together. And now she's grown by leaps and bounds. They've grown in their directions, and they no longer have a resonance with each other. And so she's not adversarial with them about what it is that is rankling, but she has cut the cords and let go, because she sees that it is not part of her values, and she values her time. And so remember, if you have in relationships, things that are passing out of your life, just because there's a difference in frequency or a difference in resonance, the universe loves a vacuum. And so those relationships will have new energy come in that's more like-minded. Not making anybody else right or wrong, particularly, not going into polarization, just simply not a fit, so to speak. Not part of your vision for your tribe, for your group, humanity-wise. So as we move into Friday, and this is a really good week to journal, because you might find that things come up, that old wounds come up, old emotional patterns that are asking to be healed, that are asking you to become aware of them so that they can be healed. And also, this is a time when a lot of people are tired. Our energy flow is different. And so we need to adapt. So, just bringing these things up that are sucking our energy, that have been in our shadow way back when. Look at where there might be some shame, blame, guilt hiding out there, so that you can release that sting and reclaim the energy for what you want to do now. As we move through Friday, you might want to definitely write down your dreams, and because you might find that there are more insights into their symbolic meanings on Friday, particularly. And also, breaking free. Friday is a time when you might find that you're more that the things that have been occurring to you, maybe some of the insights out of what I've said, so that you're able to just break free more easily as the week comes to an end. On Saturday, there aren't a whole lot of aspects going on. The moon continues to move through Cancer. And so as the weekend starts, you might want to connect with the water element. Cancer is a water sign. And to look at your home and family. Those are the things that Cancer focuses on. So, Saturday might be a good time to spend some time at home, to reconnect with family, to reconnect with your inner child, as I mentioned, and the mother within you, as well as your own mother, if she's still on the planet. And then on Sunday, we have the moon moving into Leo. Actually, Saturday at 12:12 p.m., the moon moves into Leo. So the moon is in Leo for the rest of the weekend. And Leo rules the heart, the upper back and spine, and the solar plexus area. So Leo is ruled by the sun. So isn't that cool? The sun is ruling Sunday. So, experience the sun. Look at how you can be a more effective lighthouse in your own life, being the lamp unto your own feet and lighting up your own path. You might find that Sunday night is a restless night due to some of the aspects that go on. So I want to go to bed. If you find that you're tired when that biorhythmic lull hits, because sometimes we push through that, you might want to go to bed whenever your body is asking for it, because the night could be restless. And of course, as I've mentioned before, if you find that you're restless at 3 a.m. and you're getting up, it may be that there are messages. Again, that Mercury in Pisces, the veil is the thinnest. They say, I think some people say exactly between 3:20 and 4, but 3 to 4:30 a.m. If you wake up at that time, ask, what is it you'd like to tell me? Welcome your beloveds of the light and ask what they might have, what messages they might have for you. It's an interesting time. As I've mentioned before, we have clusters of planets. They are all located from Capricorn through Aries. So it's like the last quarter of the zodiac is where the planets are. But the complexion has shifted because we now have, we don't have as many planets in Pisces. The new moon was a big one. We had both the sun and the moon there, as well as Jupiter and Neptune. Now we have Jupiter, the sun and Neptune in Pisces. So it's still a big focal point for inspiration, imagination. I love the word imagineering. So imagineering the new life, the dream of life that you have. And then we move to, as we move through the zodiac, right now, we've had a lot of planets in Capricorn, but now we've got Vesta and Pluto, and that's it. And they are united with each other. And Vesta is the keeper of the hearth, the keeper of the flame. But in Latin, the direct translation is the focus of the heart. And I love that. So we're being asked to look at where the focus of the heart has been sideswiped by the elements in our society that misuse power, where power is used as force or like a hypnotic element. And we are learning that power is inherent. It is not worked on us from the outside. And so it is time for us to own our power, to empower ourselves from a heart-centered perspective. What is the focus of your heart? The true focus of your heart. It also speaks to values. And if the focus of your heart is not, if what you're doing is not imbued from that perspective, then Pluto is telling you that you might want to own your power and transform that area of your life. Juno, the goddess of relationships and marriage, is united with Saturn. Well, that's actually 6 degrees away, but that's in Aquarius. I'm just going through this way. So, Mercury is at the very tail end of Aquarius until Wednesday. So that's what we've got going on there. So relationships, friendships particularly. Somebody asked me the other day if there's only one soulmate, or if only people who are married are soulmates. No. Soulmates can be, some of us have had friendships that are very deep and lasting, that we're very committed to, and we know that we are soulmates with these people. So, and I always say soulmates are moonmates, because the moon tells you who you are behind closed doors and how you perceive nurturing and security. So it's really good to look at that if you're really getting into relationship with someone, to know where their moon is and what that means as far as their operating systems needs for nurturing and security. When we move to Aries, we find that Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and intelligence, is there. Chiron is there, the wounded healer, and also Eris. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Eris as we have a few more minutes here. And Eris is it's a long moving planet. I've been really moving more and more into why all these dwarf planets? What are the messages that they have? They have long orbits. They affect generations. Why are they coming to us now? It's so that we will take a longer view, so that we will recognize that the field of consciousness from which in which we have our being, and from which we sprang and are sustained by, that this is the truth. And so these longer energies, we may have lifetimes that we work with these energies. The seeds that we plant may go on for generations in these areas, in following these characteristics of energy. So we're asked to, at this time, to begin to look at those. And as we look at Eris, Eris is a circle with an arrow underneath it. So it's an interesting glyph. And Eris was discovered, it was discovered in 2003, but it's been traveling through Aries since the 1920s. It's going to remain in Aries until 2048. So you can see that it has a long orbit. I had been told that it had an orbit of over 300 years, but apparently it's not quite that long, although it is long. It is, it is definitely generational. We're talking about, close to 150 years according to this. So, and I will check that a couple more times, because as I say, there's a difference there in a couple different things I've seen. And these ephemerides around all these dwarf planets is relatively new. So Philip Sedgwick is someone who has created the ephemeris for all of these dwarf planets, for all of these objects in the Kuiper belt, which is way out there. So he's a really good source of accuracy, and I will go to him. But when when it was officially discovered, it really created chaos. It upset the order, the way we thought of the solar system. Pluto was demoted to a dwarf planet. Ceres was elevated to planetary status, which is really cool, because Ceres is the goddess of the grain and has to do with the way we feed ourselves and others. And right now, it's really having to do with the distribution of the food supply. So she's a big player right now, but it's also feminine energy, as is Eris. So Eris is one of the largest known dwarf planets, and it orbits above and below the other planets. So some planets are right in the ecliptic with each other, but Eris is above and below. Originally, Eris was named Xena, like the warrior on the television show. And her moon was named Gabriella, and that's the daughter of Eris. But then it was renamed. It's renamed Eris, and Dysnomia is the name of the moon. And so they took the mythology of Eris, the goddess of discord. And it's interesting because when you start looking through Greek mythology, you can find the story, but it's not as widely known as many of the others because the goddesses really didn't want her around. She was the goddess of discord and chaos. And, there's that original story how she was not invited to a wedding, big wedding with the other goddesses. And so she became very, very upset and went to Apollo and asked that war be created against these goddesses and against the the pantheon. And so she's known as the goddess of discord. And wherever she's traveling, there's more friction created and more permanent change in society. So she's at 23 degrees of Aries. So if you have planets between 23 degrees and 25 degrees of Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, or Aries, you are particularly affected by this energy right now. And she's a black-winged goddess and it was considered that she haunted battlefields. So we can kind of see the ongoing examination of war that we are looking at now. There are other winged goddesses: Inanna in Sumeria, Nekhbet in Egypt, Morrigan, Celtic. She also came as a raven. I find that interesting because even though this is considered to be a fierce warbird in mythology, the raven is also known as a messenger. Freya is another one, the Harpies. All of these are winged goddesses, but Eris is a black-winged goddess who haunts battlefields. So Eris went against the cultural norms and she goes against what's appropriate. And that's what happened when she first appeared, 1920. The roaring 20s came in, and women were wearing short skirts. And in the mid-20s, they got the vote. They became more politically viable. And they began flaunting their sexuality more openly. So, Eris has a few different sides. She's definitely a kick-ass goddess. And women were smoking and drinking and, dancing in clubs. Hard to believe that this was not actually allowed to be going on prior to that, the Victorian era. And this really, so you might think of Eris as one of the big energies that brought an end to the Victorian era. So she began the merging of the warrior woman archetype with the collective consciousness. So this is one of the things that, with the divine feminine, what are we a warrior for? Are we, this warrior archetype, which means standing up for ourselves, but being careful not to have that be a completely egoic construct, the me first. It feels good to experience how angry I am. I see this in some women. A few years ago, I taught some classes on anger targeting and release. And we did an exercise called locomotion, where you would take your arm and then put your foot down on the ground and whoa, and release anger from the gut level. But the challenge was a lot of the women in the class had never gotten in touch with this anger. And so they weren't moving through it. They weren't letting it go. And that was part of the process, part of what we did. But I realized that it was too soon. That they needed to be able to feel this first. And so we've also seen since 2006, when Eris was named Eris, that we've had more gender equality, more stuff around women's rights. So she is known as the Great Disruptor. And in your birth chart, it can indicate a place within the psyche that represents your insecurities and how you deal with these insecurities being triggered by others. That's interesting because others catalyze our growth. That's why being in a relationship with all the people in our lives and being aware when we are is so important and revelatory. But this really asks you to look at what comes up, what's triggered, because the masks are coming off. All around the world, the masks are coming off. And these, these awakenings, and a lot of us have been having awakenings, and they can be really messy and challenging. And they bring the undigested shadow up so that we can digest them, so that we can digest the shadow, the things that were previously ignored, now come up in epidemic proportions. I remember months ago during the pandemic, Abraham Hicks, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Abraham, but Abraham had a cruise, and there was someone on the cruise who said it's so wonderful to be on a cruise without masks, not even talking about COVID, and not being in the pool of fear that seems to be cultural right now. And Abraham said, well, fear is the virus. So this is what's coming up when I talk about epidemic proportions. It's that epidemic of fear that has been, I've seen it trotted out many times during my lifetime, and of course we can go back historically and see. So we have to face that shadow so we can heal it. As I mentioned, Chiron is also in Aries, reminding us to heal these wounds around being able to express our individual selves freely. So everything's coming to the surface to be looked at, and Eris brings matters to a head. So if you have strong energy in your chart working in this area, you might find that that's some of what's happening, and also aspects to it in your chart. We all have Aries somewhere. So, we're proceeding in the dark. And when you proceed in the dark, you use your intuition and you're cautious. And you're also, Eris is asking us to be self-reliant. Aries is the sign of the self. It's that first, the initiatory spark of spirit popping out and saying, here I am. So, it's an amazing, amazing goddess, Eris. And Henry Seltzer has written a whole book on Eris. If you want to read in depth about Eris, if you find that it's really relevant in your chart, we can see that it's relevant in society right now. It's this crusading energy that we're seeing. And we have to look at what we are willing to be a crusader for in our own lives. What's the big dream that you're willing to be a crusader for in your life? To use that wonderful intuition and imagination, and to remember to proceed in your life, being the lighthouse with a compassionate heart, a heart that opens to yourself and then opens out into the world. Thank you, Mary Lou. Yes, yes, yes. Just breathe is what Mary Lou just said. Just breathe. Yeah. So it's a beautiful day where I am, even though it's windy. I hope it's a beautiful day where you are, and that you have a very, very happy one and a joyful week. We have Mercury moving into Pisces, and there's, the moon moving along, and not a lot of other drama going on between the planets in the sky. Nothing that hasn't been experienced and started already. So go with the flow. Indeed, remember to breathe. Drop into your heart. Message me for a reading, or you can go right to the link for a reading. There are two there. One is helping you discover what the moon means very personally for you in your own life. And the other is a full reading that will guide you to manifest your dream and to use these powerful energies of change in 2022 for your highest good and greatest joy, with the right timing for everything. Now, as always, I love you to the moon and way beyond.